So very warm welcome to our Gita Sandesh session. So we're going to do a quick recap of chapter 5. So chapter 5 was called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. In this particular chapter, the Lord is giving us the choices that we can make in our journey through life. The fact that our actions and habits, it actually shapes our character. And this ultimately determines your destiny. So there's a famous quote by Mark Twain. He says that we are not human beings on a spiritual journey, but rather we are spiritual beings on a human journey, which means our spiritualness comes first before our humanness comes. Because our spirituality has existed eternally, it is just that in this life, that spiritual soul has taken on a human form. So we are actually spirit souls undertaking a human journey in this birth, because in this birth we have acquired a human form. So this highlights the spiritual nature of all the jivas. So Krishna is telling us that we have options. And we said chapter 5 was all about Nishkama Karma Yoga. And we'll come to that yoga ladder on the 6th chapter today. So at every step in our journey in life, we have the ability to make choices. So either we can get more and more entangled in I, me, and mine, or we can walk the path of spiritual journey, which will ultimately take us to liberation, freedom from miseries and entanglements, and finally to spiritual bliss. So therefore, this particular chapter, the 5th chapter, is emphasizing the choices that we can make in our journey through life. And in that context, the Lord uses the analogy of the lotus leaf with water globules on it. How the lotus remains untouched by the water, symbolizing that person who's able to maintain their spiritual journey, dedicate their life to a higher cause, and allowing themselves to be free from the effects of karma. Therefore, this Nishkama Karma Yoga comes into the picture. If we don't tread this path, then we are going to be quite unhappy. So the whole chapter began with Arjuna asking a question, which is better, renunciation or a renounced life? And Krishna says both are actually good for the path of liberation, but it is renunciation while you're doing devotional activities, which is the highest. So is it bhakti or is it renunciation? Krishna chooses bhakti as being superior. And we talked about how we have to work without attachment to the results. This is what a Nishkama Karma Yogi does. He performs all of his duties and responsibilities very nicely, but when the results come, he simply offers it in the service of the goodness of society. And we looked at the hierarchy of the soul, followed by the intelligence, followed by the mind, followed by the 5 senses, followed by matter. So it is the soul that has to decide that it has to remain the master. But if the senses become the master, then your whole world will become topsy-turvy. If the servant becomes the master, then your life is going to be chaotic. So in that regard, we said it all has to start with controlling our anger. Because lust is an enemy. If your desire is not fulfilled, then you tend to get angry about it. If your desire is fulfilled, then you're happy and it just generates more new desires. So every time a desire is fulfilled, it gives rise to some other desire will always take its place. And this is a never-ending process for all of us. So we have to exercise some restraint, some caution. We cannot put ourselves in a situation where we have unlimited desires. It's okay to have some desires because after all, we are all grihastas. And we have so many responsibilities on our shoulder. But if you have unending desires, then it becomes quite difficult for you to manage yourself and manage your life, manage your family, manage your finances, etc. So, therefore, Krishna recommends the peace formula. The peace formula suggests that he is Bhoktaram Yajñatapasam. It is Krishna who is accepting your austerities and your sacrifices. So your tapaha as well as your yajna is being accepted by Krishna. Second, Krishna says he is the supreme controller and all of the universe is controlled by him. All of the devatas are also controlled by Krishna. And finally, Krishna says, I am your benefactor, which means Krishna always wants the best for us. And he is our best friend because he is the only one who accompanies you from body to body to body. When you give up this body, your family member is not going with you. You are going with Krishna. Because Paramatma is always accompanying the Atma. Therefore, Krishna talks about the three doers. So yes, the individual soul has a limited amount of independence and free will. If that is exercised in the service of Krishna, then everything should be sanctioned. But if it is exercised to satisfy only yourself, then it may or may not get sanctioned based on what is there in your karmic bank account. Once the Lord sanctions it, then Prakriti becomes involved to help you experience the results of what it is that you had a desire. So you can say destiny is on one side and free will is on the other side. So destiny can only be changed, as we discussed, by Krishna. And Krishna will only change it if you are actually surrendered to it. So because we have free will, we have to exercise it with a great deal of caution. And I asked a question in the chat, which I think many of you got a little confused. Krishna is telling us two things. He's telling us to do our duty and to try our best. Our aim should not be to be the best. Because to say, I want to be the best means I is coming into the picture. Your false ego is coming into the picture. And anyway, since there are three doors, you are not in total control. Therefore, you can try your best and leave the rest up to Krishna. Because whatever you can try, for example, all of us are not going to be good at everything, right? So if you ask me to paint something or draw a picture, I may be horrible at it. I can give it a shot, but I know I'm not going to be super excellent. So we all come with limitations in our talent, in our ability, in our capability, in our understanding, in our intelligence. So when everything is limited, how can you always be your best? It's not that you should not try to, but the first thing is you have to try to do your best, right? Rather than pretending to be something that you're not. So there is a dynamic interplay between the Jivatma, Paramatma, and Prakriti when it comes to the desires. So you should perform your duty and exert effort in performing your duty with due care and diligence, but understand the role of Paramatma and Prakriti in determining the results. Because if you're thinking about being your best, then you already have an anticipation for a certain result. Rather, your mood should be, I will try my best, and my best is going to be to try and please Krishna. If Krishna is pleased, then my objective is met. So this is what we were talking about yesterday, and the chapter ended with peace formula. So today we'll look at chapter 6. And what is the connection between chapter 6 and chapter 5? So let's look at it. The first chapter was Arjuna lamenting. The second chapter was Krishna establishing his true identity as the spirit soul, and of course everybody's identity as the spirit soul. The third chapter, Krishna talked about the duties based on Swadharma and Nitya Dharma. The fourth chapter is one has to have knowledge about not just Atma Jnana, but also who is the Supreme Lord. So, and who do we learn this Jnana from? This Tattva about the Lord, the Tattva about the Jivatma, the Tattva about the Prakriti, Tattva about Kala. So one has to approach a guru, and it's through this guru you acquire transcendental knowledge and make progress on the spiritual path. So if you apply all of this, if you perform your duties and responsibilities and do it with the understanding that you have a connection with Krishna and develop some amount of detachment from the results of the activities that you perform, then the end result is going to be peace. So chapter 5 was all about how do you set up your life in such a way that everything that you do results in a karma. So how to do a karma is what chapter 5 is all about. One way to do a karma is by doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. And we'll explain that in today's chapter. What's the difference between the Karma Kandi or the Karmi, the Karma Kandi, the Karma Yogi, the Sakama Karma Yogi, the Nishkama Karma Yogi? There's so many different categories of levels of consciousness. Why so many categories? Broadly speaking, it just talks about the levels of your spiritual consciousness. So to do a karma, one of the things we have to learn is to control our mind, which is in connection with Nishkama Karma Yoga. To be detached from the results is not easy, because you are working because you are expecting some result. It is very difficult to think about working without expecting any result. It's very tough to develop that level of detachment. However, to develop that level of detachment, one has to learn how to control one's mind. So we need to practice this. So this Dhyana Yoga is all about how to manage one's mind. So the question we have is our mind our friend, or is it our foe? Or does it alternate with being our friend or foe, depending on our exposure to transcendental knowledge? Then Krishna will talk about Ashtanga Yoga. Arjuna will get worried after what all Krishna describes one has to do to be successful by practicing Dhyana Yoga. Arjuna's thought is, oh my God, this seems very difficult. His next question is, what if I embark on a spiritual journey, but in this life I'm not successful, in the sense that I don't reach my end goal in this life. That means next life I have to start all over again, or what happens, Krishna? So that is the second concern that Arjuna has in this chapter. So Krishna will explain what happens if you start a spiritual path, but you're not successful in this life. What will happen to you in your next life? Krishna is going to give answers to that question. After answering the question Arjuna had, Krishna will then give us the hierarchy of the different yogis. He will conclude this chapter by saying, which is the most important shloka for us, because depending on the school of philosophy, a different view is given of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Jnanis would say Bhagavad Gita is all about Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is not considered to be the topmost. An impersonalist will say this whole Bhagavad Gita is all about monism. It doesn't at all talk about bhakti. How do we know who is telling the right thing? Well, we can hear directly from the lips of Krishna to see what his opinion is. And that is what we're going to learn today. Because Krishna will literally say, this is my opinion. So if he has categorized the yogis, then we have to go by what Krishna says. There should be no further doubt about this. So it is the nature of our mind. Sometimes it gives you good suggestions. Sometimes it does not give you good suggestions. How do you learn to actually listen to your mind? And rather, should you even listen to the mind? Is that something that you should risk doing? However, we all know sometimes the mind cooperates with you and sometimes the mind does not cooperate with you. So first of all, we need to understand the nature of the mind. Then we have to understand what is yoga. Because after all, this whole chapter is called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana means your mind is engaged in meditation. So first understand what is dhyana, then understand what is yoga. So in the sixth shloka of this chapter, Krishna says, Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So essentially, Krishna is saying, if you can control your mind by regulating it, and we said the best way to regulate the mind is through mantra meditation. Because that is what meditation is all about, is to get your mind to focus. So if the mind is under control, then you can face any problem in life. But in order for the mind to be under control, the mind has to undergo some training. Otherwise, the mind becomes quite disobedient. So the mind has to be taught what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. If you trained your mind to act against you, then that is exactly what it is going to do. So let's take a simple example. I have a question for you. Let us say I've invited you to my house. There's a wonderful feast prepared and it's kept right before you. And we're all getting ready to honor this wonderful feast prasadam. And suddenly you get a phone call with some very bad news. My question to you is, would you be interested in having the feast, or what would you do? If you've got bad news, would you still be interested in the feast? Yes? No? Okay, why? What happened? What happened suddenly that you lost interest in the feast? Yes. Our mind gives more importance to negative thoughts. Isn't that the truth? For some of us, we have trained our mind to focus on the negative. Yes, the mind got disturbed. The mind is now, its thought process has shifted to what has gone wrong. It no longer cares about the beautiful feast in front of its eyes. So quickly the mind got disturbed. Simply based on hearing some information that was not conducive for you to stay in that same state of mind as you would have when you first entered the house. Similarly, let us say you are sitting at home, you're tired, you've not had time to cook, so you're taking out some old food from the fridge, reheating it and eating it, and you get a phone call. And it's a very fantastic happy news. Would you be interested in that food that is old, that is reheated? What would you do now? Would your mind be the same? So you're really, really happy. Will you eat the food in front of you? Or will you reject it because you're so happy?
Mataji, extremely sorry, I disconnected. Shall you please ask the question? I missed this question.
The question is, if you've got old stale food in front of you, you don't have any other option because you didn't have time. You have to eat that food. And a call comes in and some very happy news is delivered to you over the call. My question was, would you still be interested in the food in front of you? Yes, because you're so happy, your mind has shifted its attention to the good news. You really don't care. Any food will taste good. Even old food will taste good. Whereas when your mind is disturbed, even the most luxurious of foods will lose its value and taste for you because your mind has shifted to something negative. So that means we have trained our mind to respond to stimuli from the external world. Therefore, to understand reality, you have to really train your mind well. So essentially what we're saying, if your expectations are met, your mind is happy. If your expectations are not met, then you have a disappointed mind. So similarly, my question is, let us say you have to go apply for Aadhaar card or PAN card. Of course, today everything is digital. So your friend told you, yeah, I just did it a couple of weeks ago. It took me 2 hours. And you go thinking, okay, 2 hours is not bad. I will also go stand in line for 2 hours and get my card made. But then that day, it didn't take 2 hours. It took 5 hours for you. Would you be happy or unhappy about that situation?
Mataji, can you repeat just last line? It is healthy, yeah?
What I was saying is, you are standing in queue to apply for Aadhaar card or some card. You were told by your friend that It took only 2 hours for them when they applied. They were standing in queue for 2 hours and the process was finished in 2 hours. But when you go and stand in the queue, it takes 5 hours. Would you be happy or unhappy?
Unhappy, Mataji.
Unhappy because the expectation has been set, it will be 2 hours. But once it's taken more than 2 hours, you become distressed, upset about it. Now, you are going to Tirupati Balaji. You know you have to stand for very long time. What would be the situation? Would you be happy or unhappy knowing that you have to spend maybe 10, 12 hours to get darshan? You'd be happy because your mind already knows it's going to take a long time and Tirupati may be very, very unpredictable. Okay, so now if I ask you, every one of you, there are 29 of us, excluding me, 28. If I ask each one of you to come to class at 5 a.m. in the morning, how many of you will come? Not many. Out of 28 of us, maybe 2 people will come. Why? I will say come for 5 a.m. japa. Why only 2 people may come and the rest may not come? What is the reason you may not come at 5 o'clock? It requires more effort. You're more interested in sleeping. What else? What could be other reasons why you will not come for 5 o'clock? Yeah, so you want to extend your sleep.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, we already know that our class is online. And one more thing that you have already said the timing. Everything means we have set up our mind. So sudden change may affect whether to go or no.
That means you don't want to disturb your existing schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
So we also stick to time schedules. And if anybody disturbs that schedule, you are not able to cope with it. Now, if I tell you, come 5 a.m. for class, you will get 5 lakhs. Guarantee. Would you get up and come? All of you will come. Do you know why? Because we've trained the mind that money is important. So you see how your decisions are being propositioned by your mind. So the way you've trained your mind is the way your life is going to go. That is why Krishna is saying in this chapter that to regulate the mind, it's quite tough. But once you regulate the mind, then your mind becomes your friend. So let's look at another example. Here, we looked at a different version of this picture earlier. Let us say these 5 horses are our 5 senses. And there is no rope. And we said the rope is the mind because the mind controls the senses. If the rope is very slack or if there is no rope at all, what will happen to the 5 horses?
Anyhow, they work, Mataji.
Huh?
Anyhow, they work or they do whatever they want. If you don't,
They
have
will
that
go in
mind.
5 different directions.
Yes.
Because there's no control. So If there is no rope, or if the rope is very slack, then the chariot is going to go probably fall apart. So it is very important for the mind to control the senses and for the intelligence to control the mind. If these things do not happen, then it will be very chaotic for us. So as we discuss, the chariot is the body, the passenger is the soul, the charioteer or the driver of this body is the intelligence, the horses are the senses, and the bridle ropes is the mind. So this is the best way in which we can understand how things can go very quickly out of control if our charioteer is not controlling everything. Of course, how do you control your intelligence? We already said it is through reading the Bhagavad Gita, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Harikatha. So now we've understood about the mind. Now we're going to come to yoga. The word yuj means connection. Essentially, when the Jivatma finds out that they are eternally related to the Paramatma, then they get reconnected to the Lord. So, Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga means that they are transcendental paths by which you can reconnect to Krishna. Some of those paths are like bullet trains. They get you there super fast. Some of those paths are like a bullock cart. It'll take you a long time to reconnect with Krishna. What is not yoga? So yoga doesn't mean just some breathing exercises or physical exercises or going and sitting deep in the forest or going into the Himalayas. Yoga is fundamentally practiced to control the mind, but it begins also with some physical exercises. So imagine, to control the mind, you have to begin with pranayama, asanas, before you sit down to control your mind. So the ultimate objective of yoga is to control the mind. But of course, these days, we do it for a whole lot of different reasons, for health benefits and to address medical conditions, maybe that yoga can help you solve. But many of us are not practicing yoga for the sake of controlling our mind. We are doing it only for our physical body, our limbs, to stay fit. So in the Ashtanga Yoga system, there are 8 levels. And what do these 8 things mean? Yama means external disciplines. Though that means there are a set of value systems that you follow. For example, ahimsa, non-violence, satya, speaking the truth, ashteya, not stealing, brahmacharya, maintaining celibacy. These things are called external disciplines. Niyam are internal disciplines, like sauchaha, meaning internal purity. Of course, internal purity also begins with external purity. Santosha, meaning contentment. Doing tapas for the sake of exercising self-discipline. Swadhyaya, it's study of the self, observing yourself. And then Ishvara Pranadhanam. Finally, learning how to start the process of surrendering to the Lord. All of this falls under Niyam. Only then comes asana. That means your external and internal disciplines must be practiced before you even begin practicing postures. So it's a step-by-step process. Yeah. Then your asana, then your breath control, pranayam, then pratyahara, learning how to withdraw all the senses, then concentration, dharana, and finally, you reach the stage of Gita. Okay, just one second. There is some disturbance. Banu Mataji, can you put yourself on mute? Okay. Then you come to the stage of dhyana or meditative absorption. This is where you're absorbed in Paramatma. And then samadhi is integrating with the Lord or union with the Lord. So these are the stages of Ashtanga Yoga. So you can see how much effort it will take for you to unite with the Lord. Do you think it's feasible to do this in one lifetime? Many of us will be scared just looking at this diagram, wondering, is this really something I should consider? Because it seems quite difficult. So here, Krishna is telling us some of the processes that needs to be followed to perform this Ashtanga Yoga. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayam machalam sthiraha samprekshya nasikagram swam dishaschanavalokayan prashantatma vigatabhihi brahmachari vrate sthitaha manas sanyamya machittaha yukta asita matparaha. So in these two shlokas, Krishna is saying the process, how it begins to perform Dhyana Yoga. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So here Krishna has defined for us what Ashtanga Yoga is and what is the goal of Ashtanga Yoga. The reason you practice Ashtanga Yoga is to go back to Krishna. How do you go back to Krishna? Well, you have to learn meditation. This may take many years of practice, maybe even many births of practice. But this is the ultimate goal of life if you want to go back to Krishna through the process of Ashtanga Yoga. So Krishna talks about how to control the mind. So first he's talked about the physical body, the concentration, the eyes, the breathing, etc. Now he's going to come to the mind. Yato yato nischalati manas chanchalam asthiram tatastato niyamyaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the first thing Krishna is saying, when you start your meditation, you may not be able to concentrate. Your mind will tell you, go here, go there, go everywhere. So when your mind begins to wander away from Krishna, Krishna is saying, you have to pull it back under control. But Krishna is also saying in the shloka that the mind is naturally flickering. 1 minute here, not even 1 minute. 1 millisecond here, 1 millisecond there. And so the mind is presenting with you with so many thoughts, so many options. Somewhere I heard that a mind presents, like you have 80,000 thoughts a day on average for a human being. 80,000 thoughts is a huge number of thoughts. Certainly it's a number of thoughts based on a very distracted mind. So Krishna is saying the mind is unsteady. Whenever it goes out of your control, you have to be conscious that it is going out of control and bring it back under your control. Under the control of the soul. Because the soul is the self. Here, in this shloka, Arjuna then asks a question. O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. So let's say somebody has gone into the forest thinking, yes, I will also practice Ashtanga Yoga. So he thinks, if I'm alone, nobody is there to disturb me. I can certainly achieve success because it's just me and my mind. Nobody to distract me, nobody to tempt me. So he's sitting in a posture and suddenly he hears a girl walk by. How does he know it's a girl? Because his eyes are open. He can see her. And he thinks, oh, seeing is quite distracting. So when I do my meditation, it is better that I just bind my eyes. So he puts a cloth around his eyes and he continues with his yoga practice. Then the next day, that same lady walks by. And this time he hears the ankle belts that she's wearing. So he thinks my ears are going to distract me from my yoga practice. Better I plug my ears. So he blocks his ears. So now eyes are closed, ears are blocked. Next day, he's continuing. The same girl passes by. This time she's wearing beautiful jasmine flowers on her head. And the smell reaches his nose. And he thinks, where am I going with this? So he has to close his nose. The next day, eyes are closed, ears are blocked, nose is blocked. So now he cannot see, he cannot hear, he cannot smell. The following day, as he is practicing his yoga, his mind has wandered, thinking, has that girl passed by today? Because I would not know, because my ears are closed, my eyes are closed, my nose is blocked. So even if you block all your senses, your mind is still presenting you with options. His mind is thinking, where is that girl? So can you imagine how difficult it is to control the mind? Because your mind is constantly being trained by the senses to focus on certain things. Yes. So hence Arjuna is telling Krishna, hey Krishna, everything you've outlined so far about this dhyana yoga, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can sustain myself because my mind is restless and unsteady. Then Arjuna will tell Krishna, better you ask me to control the wind, but please don't ask me to control the mind. So Arjuna says, Chanchalam himana Krishna pramathe balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayor iva sudushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So Arjuna is a great warrior. To be a great warrior and an archer, you have to have tremendous concentration abilities. We all know about the bird in the tree and how Arjuna was able to just focus on the eye and still shoot the bird. And he demonstrated his ability to concentrate in other ways as well. Still, a great warrior like Arjuna, a great archer like Arjuna is saying, I don't think I can control my mind. So what is our position? If Arjuna is saying, I don't think I can control my mind, what is our position? We are far more distracted in Kali Yuga. So the number of distractions that are there in Kali Yuga are unlimited, and primarily due to all the devices that we carry with us. And along with that comes a lot of burdens. Yes. So one of the other concerns that Arjuna had, hearing what all Krishna has said about these various practices, is that what would happen if I'm not successful in one lifetime? Is everything that I practice an utter waste? Arjuna vacha ayate shraddha yopetaha yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna is saying, oh Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists, meaning gives up due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? So Arjuna's question is quite intriguing and quite interesting even for all of us, because we would have never thought about this. What if I started down the path of Jnana Yoga and give up? What if I start down the path of Ashtanga Yoga and somehow give up because something happens in my life and I'm no longer able to continue? Sometimes we all want to do courses and we're so happy and excited and determined and enthusiastic, and we sign up for the course. And after a couple of months, we realize, I just can't finish this course. I have to drop out. Because everything else invades your personal space. So much so you're not able to concentrate on finishing the course. So similarly, Arjuna is asking that question. In the beginning, I may take up to a path because I'm enthusiastic, I'm determined, I'm convinced this is the right thing to do, and I start practicing. Somewhere along the way, I just slowly, my mind weakens, my senses weaken, my intelligence weaken, and I just give it up. So what happened? The question is it a waste of time? That's the question. So if it is a waste of time, why should anybody practice any yoga? Right? If everything that you try and you don't succeed in one life, then it's certainly a waste of time. So that means nobody is going to be encouraged to perform any yoga because they will convince themselves, I will not be able to do it in this life. What do you think Krishna says? Krishna reassures Arjuna. Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate chatato bhuyah samsiddhau kuru nandana. Krishna is saying, don't worry. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life. And he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. Krishna is saying, whatever you do on the spiritual path, I will protect it. Even if you don't succeed in this life, I will give you an opportunity in your next life to continue your exploration of that particular path. Whatever that path is, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna is saying, whatever efforts that you have made to practice spirituality, that he will protect. Not just in this life, but in the next life. So it's like a permanent credit in your account when you practice some spirituality. And this is the assurance that Krishna is giving. So in the picture here, you see Jada Bharat. In his previous life, he was Bharat Maharaj. He decides to give up his kingdom, hands over his kingdom to his young son, and decides to go into the forest to meditate and practice his austerities. Unfortunately, Bharat Maharaj gets entangled with a young deer that he raises, a baby deer, that doe that he raises. And when he starts getting attached to this deer, he forgets all about his spiritual practice. So he's not successful in completing it in that one life. Because he was thinking of the deer that he was so attached to at the time of death, in his next birth, he himself becomes a deer. That means Bharat Maharaj in his next life, in the following life, he enters the body of the deer. Now, why should he enter the body of the deer? You will understand when we come to chapter 8, when Krishna talks about death and how to leave this body and how to guarantee yourself a human life in your next birth is also something Krishna will talk about. So fortunately, because he had done some amount of meditation in the forest, even though he occupied the body of a deer, Krishna ensured that this deer was living in an ashram of the rishis. And somehow or the other, this deer was able to remember that it was a king in the previous life. And in its own way, tries to be in the ashram because association is important for you to make progress on the spiritual path. So in the next life, the deer comes as Jada Bharat. And Jada Bharat decides from birth, he is not going to make the mistake that he made 2 births before. Therefore, he pretends to be dumb and useless. However, he was a self-realized soul. So one day, he is asked to help carrying the palanquin of the king, Rahugana. And suddenly he jumps all around because he's trying to avoid the ants on the floor of the forest. He does not want to kill them. And the king gets upset and asks him, what kind of service is this? You are actually making my journey unpleasant. And it is for the first time that Jada Bharat opens his mouth and speaks transcendental topics. It is then Rahugana surrenders to him and says, you are a great self-realized soul. You're externally only you are acting mad and foolish and unintelligent and ignorant. But internally you are a great self-realized soul. So you can see King Rahugana actually surrenders to Jada Bharat and asks him to preach to him, to teach him. Right? This is actually very, very important. That even a king accepts someone superior to him in spiritual knowledge, although he may be lower in terms of position in society, but he accepts him as Guru. So for everyone, Guru is important, not just for the great people. Every one of us needs Guru in life. So this diagram further explains to you, it's a summary of one more shloka after this. So Krishna is essentially going to say, in response to Arjuna's question, if that yogi has practiced for a very long period of time, and then somehow or the other, he's not able to achieve success in this life, Krishna says he will immediately take birth in a household that is very pious and already practicing spirituality. That means both the parents will be great devotees, and this soul will just come and land in that family. This is how Krishna protects your spiritual activities and progress. However, for those yogis who have practiced for a very short period of time, still they get some benefit, except the benefit is not necessarily spiritual, but Krishna rewards them with a very long life in Swargaloka. After they finish their term in Swargaloka, Krishna says, definitely I will put them in an aristocratic family or a pious family. So first thing is, if you do it for a short period of time, you are going to go to Swargaloka, enjoy yourself. Once your credits expire there, you will come back and you will take birth in either a very rich family or a very pious family. So how does being born in a rich family assure you of going back to Krishna? It does not. It's just that if you're born into a rich family, you don't have to work hard for a living. You can just completely dedicate your life to your spiritual practice. So this is the assurance that Krishna is giving. Now comes to the conclusion that matters to us, because this is where Krishna is going to talk about what his hierarchy is of the different yogis. Who is higher, who is lower. There is zero confusion. You read the shloka, you'll be very clear on what Krishna's viewpoint is. So, in order for us to reach the highest path and to ensure that we get a human birth in our next life, all we have to do is keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. For those who have not yet started chanting, that is why we are inviting you to begin your journey of chanting by joining the class 10 minutes early, so you can start depositing Sukriti into your permanent account. Because that way, Krishna is protecting you and personally helping you make progress in your spiritual life. So now that we've understood short-term practice and long-term practice, what are the different results, we are now going to learn what Krishna thinks about the different yogis. So these are the last two shlokas of the chapter, which is 46 and 47. But we need to understand this properly. So Krishna says in 46, Tapasvibhyo dhiko yogi, jnanibhyo pimato dhikaha, karmibhyas cha dhiko yogi, tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruit worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So in this shloka, Krishna is giving a hierarchy of the different yogis and those who are outside the yoga ladder also. For those who are chasing material desires, they are at the lowest place. From a spiritual standpoint, their consciousness is very low, very animal-like. Higher than them is a jnani. An empiricist means someone who is studying the scriptures, who are engrossed in Vedic scriptures, the Upanishads, the Vedas, etc. Such a person is called a jnani. Higher than the jnani is an ascetic. An ascetic is someone who has given up everything in life and leading a very austere life. Higher than an ascetic is a yogi, dhyana yogi. Someone who is spending time doing Ashtanga yoga and meditating on the Lord. So Ashtanga yoga followed by Jnana yoga, Ashtanga yoga followed by an ascetic, followed by Jnana Yoga, followed by a Karma Kandi. So among this, Krishna is saying, if you had a choice, Arjuna, you should do Ashtanga Yoga because he is the highest. You have to be this kind of a yogi because this yogi is meditating upon me as Paramatma. A Jnani is not meditating on the Lord. He is only studying scripture. An ascetic is also not meditating on the Lord. He is just given up everything and leading a very austere life. The Karma Kandi is very busy trying to fulfill his senses. Therefore, this kind of yogi, the Dhyana yogi, is the best among these. However, in the very next shloka, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madkate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktattamo mataha. And of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental, loving service to me. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So far, Krishna has talked about Dhyana Yoga, the ascetic, Jnana Yoga, the Karma Kandi. Now Krishna is saying, above all of this is my bhakta. Why? Why does Krishna put his bhaktas on such a high pedestal? Because they are always thinking of Krishna and rendering service to Krishna with love. Therefore, Krishna says, my bhakta has the most intimate relationship with me, and therefore they are the highest. What is Krishna valuing in this shloka? A relationship. He's not mentioned anything here about doing pranayama, asana, etc. He simply mentioned that my bhakta is always chanting my names, he's always thinking of me, he's always hearing Harikatha, he's always doing some seva. Therefore, he has the most intimate relationship with me. And because he has the most intimate relationship with me, he is the highest yogi. That means a bhakta is higher than a mystic, he is higher than an empiricist. Right? So far we have heard about Karma Yoga so far in chapters 3, 4 and 5. In 6 we've heard about Ashtanga Yoga. Now Krishna has set the stage for you to hear about Bhakti Yoga. Chapter 7 begins with Bhakti. So at the end of chapter 6, Krishna is saying, performing Bhakti is the topmost. So this is why we say, this is the only shloka, if you really understand, then you will perform Bhakti, because that is what pleases Krishna most. You are trying to unite with Krishna in a loving relationship with him. Yes? So you cannot perform Bhakti Yoga by yourself. You have to do it in the association of other devotees. So there was one king by the name of Vallabha. This is in South India. And he was trying to understand what is the meaning of the Vedas. So he called for his ministers, and the ministers called some yogis, jnanis. And the king said, I will give a nice prize to whoever answers this question correctly, which is, what is the essence of Vedas? That was the question. So this bag of gold is hung up, and many great rishis, munis come, saints come. They give an elaborate explanation of what is the essence of all of the Vedas, but somehow or the other, this bag of gold does not fall down. The king is getting frustrated now. And one night when he is asleep, he gets a dream. And in that dream, the Lord is telling him, there is a great devotee of mine. His name is Vishnu Siddhar. You please go ask him to come and explain to you what is the essence of the Vedas. So the following morning, the king sends his servants to find this Vishnu Siddhar. This Vishnu Siddhar, what is his role? He's not a great rishi. He's not well read in scriptures. His only seva is he makes garlands for the Lord. So when the king's servants come and ask him to come and explain what is the essence of the Vedas, he laughs. He says, oh, why are you calling me? I do not know anything about the Vedas. So he refuses. That night, Vishnu Siddhar also has a dream. The Lord comes him and tells him, you please go. I will help you explain what is the essence of the Vedas. So when Vishnu Siddhar enters the palace the next day, everybody makes fun of him. Everybody laughs at him. So the king asks him, so I heard you're a great devotee of the Lord. You're doing some wonderful service in the temple, making garlands for the Lord. Can you explain to me what is the essence of the Vedas? And so Vishnu Siddhar says, as far as I understand, I have not studied the Vedas. But if you understand who is God, if you understand how you should love God and how you have to serve God, then in my opinion, this is the essence of all Vedic scriptures. First of all, find out who is God, how to love him, how to serve him. The minute he says this, the bag of gold drops. So the king takes Vishnu Siddhar on an elephant procession because he had heard from so many well-educated, intellectual, philosophical people, but somehow or the other, the answer was not sufficient to get that bag of gold to drop. But he got such a sublime answer in just 3 sentences. Understand who is the Lord, understand how to love him, and understand how to serve him. So he takes him on a procession. And when Vishnu Siddhar is sitting on that elephant, the Lord himself comes out of the temple to take the darshan of his devotee. At that time, Vishnu Siddhar says, why have you stepped out? Drishti will come upon you. You please go back in to the altar. It's not right for you to come out to see me. So at that time, Vishnu Siddhar composes many verses requesting the Lord, fearing that the Lord will be harmed or hurt in some way. So bhakti means that the only thing that you have in mind is that the well-being of the Lord. Bhakti means you feel you have to protect the Lord from anything and everything. You forget your role as a servant and you take on the role of being the lover of the Lord as well as the protector of the Lord. So a great devotee always wants to protect and save the Lord. And in order to get to this stage, they actually have to chant the holy names of the Lord because this is the Kali Yuga Dharma. So coming back to one more slide, one more shloka for us, but this time from Srimad Bhagavatam. So why is Bhakti Yoga being emphasized? Not just in Bhagavad Gita, but also in Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, the entire Bhagavatam is only about Bhakti. Etavaneva lokesmin pumsam dharmah paraf smritah bhakti yogo bhagavati tannamagrahanadhibihi. Devotional service beginning with the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the ultimate religious principle for the living entity in human society. Bhakti begins with chanting the holy names of the Lord. So Nama Japa is the quickest way to get to the Lord's heart. So I'd like to once again invite all of you to come and do Nama Japa tomorrow, 10 minutes before class. We have time to meditate on the Lord at least for 10 minutes without our mind getting distracted. So all these classes we've had up to so far is to emphasize the importance of chanting. Because without chanting, in Kali Yuga, you cannot access the Lord, because meditation is not feasible in Kali Yuga. Jnana Yoga is also not feasible. So I said I will summarize that yoga ladder for you. So you can see at the bottom of the ladder is karma. Karma equals materialism. We called such a person karmi in one of the slides. Right about above the karma or the karmi is what is called karma kanda. Karma kanda can be defined as religious materialism. You will follow religion but to satisfy your personal desires. Above this karma kanda is what is called sakama karma yoga. You can say this is spiritual practice with desires. Karma kanda is rituals. You are not interested in Krishna. You are just interested in performing the rituals to get the result. Therefore, karma kanda is religious materialism, whereas sakama karma yoga is spiritual practice, but it is tinged with desires. Above that is nishkama karma yoga, which is spiritual practice without desires, without desire for results. And there is a very thin line between nishkama karma yoga and bhakti yoga, or even sakama karma yoga and bhakti yoga. The difference is Krishna's presence. In bhakti yoga, the devotee is only concerned about loving and serving Krishna, irrespective of whether they have material desires or not, irrespective of whether they understand scriptures or not. So in bhakti yoga, the Lord is only looking for your loving relationship with Him. Right? That is the essence of these different rungs or ladder on this path of yoga. Yes. So we'll stop here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take it. Any particular questions? Okay, let me look at the chat. Okay, there's no questions so far. Yes, Vinay Prabhu, you have a question.
Mataji, this is my favorite subject actually. Sixth chapter. I have a lot of curious in this chapter, but in this one, sixth shloka, first you mentioned about Bandhuratmatmanastasya, Yenatmaivatmanajitaha, Anatmanastu Shatvatve, Vartetatmaya Shatru. Here, I have a comparison, means so many times the people who are doing very, very, very literally bad things, but even they are surviving very happily without pains, and they lead a pleasureful life. Even a devotee, they are doing all activities are in right manner, right deeds, and getting right results, but at the end of the day they will suffer. At the end of the day they will suffer. Why this is happening?
Well, let's look at it from two different angles. One angle is karma. So if a person is enjoying themselves in this life, even though they may be doing all kinds of nonsense things, it's only because of their past credits that they're carrying over, right? So for us, it's only the present that is visible. But For that Jivatma, they are carrying a whole lot of baggage from the past, including maybe they have done some pious activities in the past for which they are enjoying themselves in this life. Correct? Second, if you remember the three doers, the Lord has to always sanction whatever is happening. Without the Lord's sanction, they will not be able to enjoy themselves even if they are doing unscrupulous activities. So somewhere there is the concept of their prarabdha karma with which they have come with the notion of enjoying certain things and suffering certain things. Now, actually today I was reading the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there is a conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, where they're talking about Vidura's leaving, going to meet Uddhava first, and then he meets Maitreya Rishi. And in that context, there's one shloka that comes where the pastimes of the Lord Krishna are being narrated in a very short fashion, an entire chapter of shlokas. And in one of the shlokas, it is mentioned that the Lord protected Draupadi by supplying her with unlimited sari so that she could protect her chastity. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, many people will ask this question. Duryodhana and his brothers and his father really tortured the Pandavas in so many different ways. The Lord witnessed all of it, but did not intervene right away. Similarly, the Lord witnessed Draupadi's disrobing, but does not intervene until she calls for him. So the question will arise, why does Krishna allow adharmic activities to continue in his own presence? Why did he not stop it? To which both the shloka as well as the purport written by Prabhupada explains this beautifully. Prabhupada says, you have to remember the context within which Krishna appears. Bhumi Devi approaches Brahma and says, I am being suffocated because of so much adharma. I don't think I can tolerate it anymore. And Brahma, along with all of the devatas, pray to the Lord and asks him to come and intervene. The Lord says, Tathastu, I'll come. Please be patient. And then he comes, he takes birth in a jail cell in Mathura, and he comes. So Prabhupada explains that the Lord decided to take a shortcut here. He didn't want to kill one king after another, after another, after another, after another. He decided that since there are so many adharmic kings burdening Mother Earth, he will just create a situation where this phenomenal war happens, and in one shot, all of them are killed over a period of 18 days. Just because the Lord delays his intervention does not mean he approves of adharma. The Lord has his own way of rectifying things, and he decides what's the best way to do it. Now, if you come to the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna has seen the Vishwarupa Darshan of the Lord. And the Lord gives an option to Arjuna. He says, see, you are actually not doing the killing. I have already killed them. So the Lord said, I have already killed all these people on the battlefield. So you personally, Arjuna, are not killing them, because that decision has already been made by me. Therefore, the best thing you can do is to become an instrument in my hands and get the credit. That also Prabhupada explains in that particular shloka. The Lord is so anxious for his great devotees to get the credit for something that he himself has orchestrated and organized. So the Lord also wants to put his devotees higher than him, put his devotees in a better light than perhaps even Krishna would want for himself or may get for himself. So one way you can look at it is through the angle or through the lens of karma. The other way you can look at it is that just because somebody is engaged in adharmic activities, it does not mean they're going to go unpunished. The punishment will come. It's not that Krishna is ignoring it. It's just that we want immediate justice. But we do not know what Krishna's plan is on how to mete out justice to any one of us. Now, coming to your question about the devotees. So devotees are very dutifully serving the Lord, following the instructions of the Lord. So why are they still suffering? Prabhupada explains it's just a basic, bare minimum, they're burning off their karmic reactions. So therefore some amount of suffering may be there. But because the devotee understands it, they tolerate it and do not give up their bhakti to the Lord. They continue on that path. That is the beauty of the devotee. Because the devotee never faults the Lord for what is happening to them. Other people may look at the devotee and say, hey, give up your bhakti here. You are struggling on, left, right, and center. They may discourage that bhakta from continuing to follow this path of bhakti. Because sometimes some people will also tell you it is when you started doing bhakti only all these problems came. To a certain extent, this may be true. Because in the stages of bhakti, the process of chanting surfaces up your anarthas. And Prabhupada explains, when the ocean was churned by the devatas and the asuras, the first thing to come out was poison. Only later on the nectar came. So bhakti follows that same process. Initially, a lot of your anarthas will come out. So in that context, you may have many issues in the family, or you may have other karmic issues. But ultimately, when the devotee reaches that stage of nishtha, or firm faith in the Lord, they will never give up the path of bhakti, because they know no matter what, Krishna is always protecting them. We do not know how Krishna operates in our life. And there is a wonderful pastime of an old lady and a rich man in a village. Both of them are great devotees of the Lord. And Narada Muni looks at this poor woman who is just dependent on her cow to give her some milk, and that's how she is subsisting her life. She has nobody else to depend on. This rich merchant is also a wonderful devotee of the Lord. He's doing a lot of services for others and trying to introduce Krishna consciousness to others. So Narada Muni goes to the Lord and says, it'll be nice if you can benedict both of them. And Krishna says, yes, whatever devotee asks, Krishna will always say yes. He's not going to say, no, why you're asking me? Don't trouble me. Am I your order taker? No, Krishna just accepts what a pure devotee requests of him with all sincerity. So Narada thought, okay, let me go see how the Lord has benedicted these two individuals. He goes back, and much to his surprise, he finds that the old lady has lost her cow. Now she's completely helpless. She doesn't even have basic food. He goes and visits the rich devotee, and he finds out that the Lord has given him even more wealth than he already had. He gets a little confused. So he goes back to the Lord and he asks, see, I asked you to benedict them. I'm not able to understand how this is a benediction from your side. How can you deprive the old woman of a cow because that's the only thing she had left? How can you give the rich man even more wealth because he already had wealth? To which the Lord responded to Narada Muni and he said, see, the old lady is just a few steps away from me. I thought because you asked me to benedict her, I took out the cow from her life, so she's now completely dependent on me. And when she is completely surrendered to me, she'll come back to me at the end of this life. Okay, understood that. But what about that rich devotee? See, that rich devotee is also doing service. He's using all of the funds that I am sending him to propagate Krishna consciousness. Since he's engaged in preaching activities, I've just given him more funds so he can continue to expand his preaching activities. So either which way, the Lord benedicted both of them. One to continue their preaching activities, the other one to come closer to him. We, externally looking at a person's life, we cannot judge what the Lord's plan is for that particular person. But a devotee always has faith in the Lord. They do not lose hope no matter what happens. That's the beauty of devotees. They maintain that internal strength. They know that things happen for a reason, but they are not going to be despondent because of it. A very lengthy answer to a very short question. My apologies.
Very nice, Mataji, your explanation. But here, one problem is there. Anger is required for bringing justice. You know very well, because of injustice, Bhishma Pitamaha does not open while unrobing the Draupadi's saree. At the time, he was quiet. Because of that, he was severely punished during Mahabharata Yuddha. At the same time, if we apply in the Kali Yuga also, as a devotee, if we are just shutting, we are not open our mouth, we are not reacting any injustice, is it punishable or not, Mataji?
Repeat that again. I heard the Bhishma Dev part. What is the injustice?
Because yeah, in the kingdom, what happens? Disrobing of Draupadi's saree. At the time, he was quiet. He did not open his mouth. Because of that, in the Kurukshetra Yuddha, he was severely punished.
How was he severely punished?
With Arjuna, because Ampashaya, you know, right, Mataji? That is a very one of the situation. His sins all are perished by Arjuna's arrows.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, in the Kali Yuga, if you apply the same principle as a devotee, if we are seeing injustice and we are not reacting and responding, is it same applies to us or not? Because sometimes as a devotee, we are just keeping calm. God only take care of them. Let me do chant and keep quiet. God will react with their sins like that. If you see means, is that sins act upon us or not?
Depends on your varnashram. Bhishma Dev is a Kshatriya. Therefore, his job is to uphold dharma. So staying quiet or overlooking it and not standing up for what is right was certainly not something that was expected of a Kshatriya. We cannot do a like-to-like comparison here. It depends on our role in society. Secondly, in Kali Yuga, the modality of government has changed. We are no longer live in a monarchy system. We live in a representative form of government, whatever it is, democracy or whatever we want to call it. It is not our role and responsibility to mete out justice. That will be quite dangerous. However, within our own sphere of influence, we can do our best to make sure justice is upheld. And Prabhupada actually writes, the worst thing about democracy is that everybody has a vote. Why is that the worst thing? Because not everybody is educated on who is pious, who's not pious, who's dharmic, who's not dharmic. The poor, innocent, ignorant people can be bought by being made all kinds of promises. Therefore, they will end up choosing the leader who has bought them. So Prabhupada says that democracy is not ideal because only the intelligent should be allowed to vote in a democracy. But that's not what democracy means. Democracy means one person, one vote. But every person is not equal. So if you don't have the intelligence as to who is the right person for you, and you are short-sighted and you vote based on whatever, vote bank politics, then you've done yourself a great deal of injustice. So you get what you deserve in that sense. So within the type of society that we are living in today, we cannot take justice into our own hands. We can be angry if something wrong is going on. But within our sphere of influence, we can see how we can make a difference. So your question is, do we have to suffer the consequences of not taking an active role in protecting dharma? Yes and no, because some of our karmic reactions are collective. How do you experience collective karmic reactions? We are all caught up in that chain of sinfulness. So if we make sure that in our personal life that we reduce or eliminate, well, actually you cannot eliminate. If we reduce our sinful activities, then we need not worry. But if we are enabling sinful activities by our own complicitness in it, in the sense we, either through silence or through other means, we are encouraging it, then yes, we have to accept that karmic reaction. Actually, the person who accepts the karmic reaction most is the head of the state. Somewhere I heard or read that the king has to take 1/6 of the karmic reactions of all of his citizens. So to be a king or a head of state is not a small matter. Therefore, it is better for dharmic people to occupy that role, because then they will ensure good governance, proper way of taking care of citizens. If you put unscrupulous people in the role of leadership, then they will also take you to hell with them. Because in a lot of ways, they have co-opted you into supporting them. And the only reason they can co-opt you is because you don't have the necessary intelligence to decipher what's right and wrong. Right?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much for your valuable answers, Mataji.
Oh, thank you for your nice questions.
Dhanyawad. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Any other question or comments? Okay. Very good. So we'll meet you again tomorrow for the beginning of the section called Bhakti Yoga. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Hare Krishna, thank you very much, devotees. We will see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.